Chatty Wednesdays with me.
Hi happy campers, it's Wednesday and I'm here with another Chatty Wednesday video. And last time I did a Chatty Wednesday video, I did a question and answer video, and I had a suggestion from Alex Hill to do an assumptions video. So there's like a bit of a trend on YouTube. It's like assumptions about me or assumptions about certain types of people. And obviously I'm a busker and a lot of you probably saw me busking. That's how you discovered my YouTube channel. And busking, it has, how do I put this? It definitely has some negative connotations around the word busker. There's definitely some assumptions, definitely not all good ones. I'm sort of dancing around the subjects a little bit, but what I'm trying to say is I think a lot of people think that buskers are homeless people. That's just an assumption that's made, and there's nothing wrong with being homeless. I just happen not to be homeless. Before I roll on to some of your assumptions that you've sent me on social media, I'll tell you about an assumption that was made about me that was sort of slightly awkward about me being homeless, which I thankfully never have been. So I was doing an interview for the about being a busker, and I think there was just like a crossed wire. I don't really know like what happened. So the guy called me and he was quite PR-y and quite like blasé. He was like, so yeah, tell us a bit about how you used to be homeless. And I was like, oh, I've never been homeless. And he was like, oh, I thought you were a busker. And I was like, yes, yes I am. And I was like, yeah, I play music on the street, but I didn't start doing that through any kind of crisis. I started doing it because I love music and I wanted to share my music on a new stage. His disappointment was palatable. Like, he was absolutely gutted that I wasn't homeless, like gutted. So we went on with the interview, and then when we ended it, he was like, I was just thinking, you know, for the story, it'd be really great if we could say that you had been homeless at some point. And I was like, I'm not, no, absolutely not. It's so exploitative of the homeless community to be like, yeah, I was homeless. Like, what, for a story? Like, absolutely not. Never ever want to be some sort of pity story that it's like, oh, she was a busker, a lowly busker. Busking has always been for me a celebration of music and a way to share with a new audience. And I'd be really interested to hear how many of you thought that in the past, and if that opinion's now changed, or if you still think that I am a homeless beggar. Let's see what you have to say. Okay, we've got this one from Andrew. I normally think of buskers as scruffy people in the street hashing out vague versions of Oasis songs. The standard of busking is much higher in London than it is where we live, and I would think busker is selling herself short. I think I always assume that people assume when I say busker that they immediately think of like a scruffy looking person, and I like to think I don't look too scruffy. Doing slightly stereotypical songs, although I do love to put an Oasis song in my set list. I try and avoid Wonderwalls. One of the things that's really important to me is presentation, so I always try and make sure that everything is laid out nicely, and I've got my cards and I've got my flowery headband, or if it's cold, try and have a nice coat on. And it's massively important to me that there's like a follow-up, so it's not just a case of you just put money in my case and then you walk away and you just forget me forever. I want there to be a genuine interaction, and I love for people to take my cards away and like find me on iTunes. So just like Andrew did, put money in my case, but they also took a card and found me on iTunes. So thank you, Andrew, and his sons, thank you. John says a really similar thing actually to Andrew. He said, I think professional musician or singer-songwriter are far more fitting terms for someone talented as you. Thank you, John. Yeah, I see what you mean actually about the fact that I write my own song. There's an assumption that buskers are not artists and musicians in their own right. They're just like cover musicians and they're just playing cover songs to make money, which sometimes we are. There are a lot of buskers that I know that write their own music and they have CDs with their original songs on. Actually, going back to something Andrew said, that I think in London we definitely do have a real culture of street performers and buskers here. So there's a high standard of buskers, and a lot of them are songwriters as well. Alice Chute says wandering minstrel. I love that. I want that on my gravestone. Actually, that's a bit dark. Christy says, before I heard you talking about busking and licenses needed for certain places, I assumed anyone could just busk anywhere they wanted. Yeah, so that's a funny thing that I've like been surprised by how much people want to hear about licenses and permits. Again, my knowledge is London, but I think it's across the country, but especially in London in recent years as well. There's been a massive crackdown on places where you have to have a license to play. It's quite bureaucratic, busking, like in London, like there's quite a lot of paperwork behind it. Like I think people assume that buskers, as Alice said earlier, are wandering minstrel. I'll just rock up and just play anywhere. And it's not really like that anymore. I think because the volume of buskers is so high now, there's just not space for everybody to just be playing all the time. Like, we have to take it in turns and we have to queue up, and sometimes that requires a little bit of pre-planning. Like on the tube, we book our slots 2 weeks in advance. Some people see a busker on the tube and they think, oh, they just got up this morning and thought, I'm gonna go and busk at Tottenham Court Road. It's like really not the case. Like, it's really hard to book that spot. Yasmin says, I would assume that as a busker, you're more of an extrovert and pretty adventurous. That is like really not how I would describe myself at all. I don't know if I am an extrovert. I think I must be. I heard someone describe themselves the other day as super outgoing as a coping mechanism for crippling anxiety. And I was like, I really relate to that. So I feel like I'm an extrovert on the outside but an introvert on the inside. Does that make sense? This is a similar assumption. You don't care about people's opinions. I wish that was true. I really wish it was. I care so much about people's opinions. To be honest, that's why I'm making this video. I need to know what do you think of me? And while we're doing assumptions, I think one of the things is I assume what people are thinking of me before they've even spoken to me, before they've even said anything. I just try and read their face, and I just assume the worst always, that people always hate me and they think I'm a terrible singer and they think I can't play guitar and they think my songs are bad. It bothers me a lot, which is not good. It's not a great way to live your life, and I'm trying to rectify that. When I heard you the first time, I assumed you were doing it as a kind of hobby or a side job, because I was thinking something like, she should do this more often for larger crowds. I actually worry that people think that. Again, I worry so much about what people's opinions are of me that sometimes I worry that they think that I'm just doing it for fun, almost like I'm tricking them because I'm actually doing it for my job. Like, oh, I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just doing this as a hobby, and then like, lol, I'm actually a professional musician. Gotcha! I used to think people did busking just for fun on their days off. I never imagined someone actually made a living from it. So yeah, similar. I think a lot of people think that. And actually, I thought that when I first started busking, I did do it as a hobby. But then I met other buskers who did it for their jobs, and I couldn't believe it. Like, I was like, no way you do this as your job. And they're like, well, I just do it a lot. So I make enough for it to be a living and I don't have to have another job. And I was like, that is amazing. I want to do that. And an assumption about me, I saw you in London about 5 years ago and thought, she looks like a very happy young woman, very talented, a bit crazy in a good way. Yeah, I am actually a very happy person. I'm a glass half full person, a bit crazy. I wouldn't say that about myself, but I'm definitely not your standard person, I guess. But who is? Alexandra Hill, who actually suggested this whole video, so thanks Alexandra, said, assumptions about buskers before I knew better. Buskers don't want or can't get a normal job. Yeah, I think that's, again, like going back to like my worries about what people think of me. I worry that people think that I can't get a job. But aside from that, I mean, I do have an English degree. Like, I'm quite well qualified for a job if I did apply for one. Like, maybe I could wangle my way into a normal job at this point. I don't know if I want to. The other thing is as well is like, not even just as a normal job in terms of an office 9-to-5 job, but in terms of music jobs. When I started busking and I started doing it full time and I started to do well at it, I actually ended up turning down a lot of music jobs, gigs and work and teaching music and playing events, because they didn't pay well enough and I was actually making better money busking. That's not to say I make loads of money, but a lot of the time people think that they can offer musicians very little money for the exposure. Busking gave me such a freedom to turn down those gigs where people said, can you come and play, and can you play for free? So like, no, I can't, because I actually can make money somewhere else, so why would I go and play for you for free when I could make money playing, you know, on the street? And that's when I realized that I'd actually gotten the power of my music career at that point. Like, I was in charge of what I was doing and I didn't have to take gigs where they were going to underpay me and underappreciate me. I could just turn them down and say, no, I don't need your gig. At that point I was able to then, when I was offered gigs, pitch my fee, and that's how I made a full-time career of this. Actually, not just from busking, but from having the power to say no to gigs for free and only take gigs where they were going to pay me what I felt I was worth. Another assumption is they will continue to busk until they're more successful in the mainstream music industry and they believe they'll get spotted like Justin Bieber. This is definitely something a lot of buskers do, and I think I used to be like that when I first started out. But as I said earlier about sort of control, it got to a point where I was building a fan base and people were buying my music on iTunes and like getting my CDs and stuff, that I also realized that I didn't really need a record deal to make my music. And then all the things that I thought that I wanted to be spotted, actually the act of busking itself had built me the platform that I'd always wanted to get from being spotted. So then I didn't really need it anymore. So that's kind of a wonderful thing. What a great moral. I should end the video here. Okay, so I'm editing this and I actually am going to end the video there because this is too long. This is a very long video already and I have so much more to say, and I had so many more assumptions sent in by you on social media, so I really want to get through those. And also I tweeted this out like just as I was filming yesterday, and then I forgot to check if anyone had replied. I have not only a first wave of assumptions but like a second wave. I don't know if I should say first wave and second wave in this climate, but yeah, I have like a whole extra load of really good assumptions that I would love to get my teeth into. So I really want to talk about those, but I think this video is long enough, so I'm going to make this a two-parter. If you liked it, please can you like the video so I know that it's worth doing the part 2, and I will answer the rest of your assumptions in the following few weeks. I hope this was interesting, entertaining and insightful, and you learned a little bit more about being a busker and being a busker in London, what it means to me. And I will see you on the next one. Thanks so much. Bye.
Chatty Wednesdays with me.